Well, God bless you. Thank you so very much for joining me this morning. Thank you for being a part of the broadcast. Thank you for sharing this time in the kingdom that we can journey together as we share truths of the kingdom from an apostolic perspective. Um, as always, I want to thank all of you for being a part of this broadcast and being a part of what we're doing here at Kingdom Voice. And want to invite you to join in and connect with us. You can see on your screen several areas in which you can reach us, several mediums in which you can reach us. You can reach us via email. You can also reach us via regular mail at 214 Remington Road, Huntsville, Texas, 77340. You can also reach us on our website at rotruth.org and our podcast. And we're doing a lot to improve our podcast and continuing to try and make the podcast, an opportunity for you to gain information and to really gain enlightenment about your own spiritual journey. Because that's what this is about. This is really about a spiritual journey that you're undertaking, not us. And so I want to invite all of you to connect with us in whatever means in which you can. And it would certainly mean a lot to hear from you and for us to continue to dialogue with one another. So I really want to encourage all of you to do so as you see or as you are led in your own spiritual journey. So thank you so very much. It really means a lot to us. As always, as we allow others to join in on the broadcast, it is very interesting how things are unfolding and things are moving forward in our society and in our culture today. And I'm finding more and more people are very engaged and very connected in their endeavors. And one of the most prominent ways in which people are connecting is what we're doing right this very minute, social media. And so today I want to really engage with you about some guidelines that I use in my own personal engagement with social media, because I think there are some dangers that lurk out there in terms of social media, that if you are not careful, you'll fall victim to those issues. Rather than utilizing social media, it will become a liability, and it can become a liability to you. So let's get started with that in mind. So let me preface what we're going to talk about today with some current events. Obviously, we've just finished the presidential election, and quite frankly, that's what really drove me to this topic, or kind of led me down this path of addressing this topic. We just finished the presidential election and we've elected a new president. And I'm sure many people that are watching this broadcast are on opposite sides of the aisle on that decision. That decision is yours. That decision that you made was your decision. You felt was the right decision for you, your family, your own needs. And that's the way a democracy works. Okay. I spoke some time ago about, the different types of governmental entities that are around the globe. We talked about socialism. We talked about communism. We talked about capitalism. We talked about straight democracies. We talked about a democratic republic. And so we just talked about those different venues different governmental styles that are around the globe. And as a part of that process, we here in the United States exercise a democratic republic. And as part of our democracy, if you will, form of democracy, we have free and open elections. And we just finished probably one of the most contentious, probably one of the most historic elections, in that you re-elected a man that a person, a president that had been elected before, lost an election and re-ran, and this time won the election. And that created a lot of energy. That created a lot of emotion, a lot of concern, if you will, for some people, and jubilation for others, and that unleashed a barrage of online participation. Now that social media engagement has been on the rise ever since the advent of MySpace. And for those of you that are old enough to remember MySpace, realize and understand that MySpace was here before Facebook. And then Facebook came along and did what they did. And then along came YouTube, and then along came LinkedIn, and then along came all of the plethora of other online mediums, TikTok, Instagram, and all of these different social media, Twitter, and now X, all of these different social media platforms. And that has given people the expression to engage across all kinds of lines, religious lines, political lines, social lines, economic lines, international lines, geographic lines. We can engage across all of those lines, if you will, and connect with people. And like anything, or like most things, there comes pros and cons with that freedom. Freedom comes with its pros and cons. Okay, freedom comes with its pros and cons. But I'll take freedom any day over the other options that are out there. And so I want to really talk about that today. And the reason I wanted to talk about that and wanted to engage with the just some guidelines that I used for online engagement. I'm not going to be before you too long today, but I do want to share this with you. After the election, there were some people, a lot of people that were disappointed with the results of the election. And you have every right to be disappointed. I have every right to be disappointed. I have every right to be jubilant. That is the freedom of a free and open society. That's what we have. So you have the right to be happy. You have the right to be upset. And social media gives you now an outlet in which you can express that jubilance or express that disappointment. And what I saw was a number of people that were, of course, I saw people that were happy and excited, and they were jumping around and really excited about the outcome. And then I saw the flip side of that. And these people on the flip side of that were quite distressed, quite disappointed with the outcome of the presidential election here in the United States. And as a result of being disappointed, what they did was they got online, took their camera, took their phone, got online, and expressed that in a very, very emotional way. And they were, some were screaming, some were crying, some were getting drunk, some were, it was, let me not say getting drunk, they were drinking. It was a very traumatic, emotional time for them. And that got me to thinking about what, and this whole phenomenon of engaging on social media. So I took the time and I wrote down some guidelines that I use that guide my engagement on social media. And I wanted to share that with you today. And we'll talk about it. And please feel free to share your comments. I want to say that at the outset. Garris, Andrea, thank you so very much for tuning in. I really appreciate your faithfulness and you guys tuning in. And please feel free. I need your and want your and request your comments, your thoughts. feel free to share that. Let's talk about it. Let's dialogue about it. Okay. So I took some time and I wrote down some guidelines that I use to engage on social media, and I want to share that with you. Hopefully, it'll be of some value to you, and an opportunity to to gain some insight on how to go about social media in a responsible, mature way, to ensure that your experience on social media doesn't come back to penalize you in the days to come, post any type of social media post that you may make or social media engagement that you may get involved in. Okay, so here are some guidelines that I use. Are here. Let's start with a couple of some of the guidelines that I use. The first thing I want to talk about is the idea that what you see on social media is in fact reality all the time. And I want you to understand that what you see on social media, especially as it pertains to individuals' lives, you typically see the highlights. And it might be something, a catastrophic deal. Someone may be sick or something like that. Absolutely. But that's a highlight or a low light, if you will. Or someone on vacation and someone having a great time, or someone posting a success story or things of that nature. Those are highlights or low lights. Okay. That is not in any way encompassing that individual's reality. That's a moment in time that they want to share with everyone and get excited about that. And rightly so, they should. But for the recipient of that, I want to encourage you not to try and measure your life by what you are looking at online. Okay. Don't measure your life, the values, success, or failure of your life and your experiences posts that you see online, because what you're seeing more often than not, 90 plus 95% of the time, is a highlight of their life, okay, or a low light of their life that they want to share with you. You may see that 30 different times across the day of your engagement, and you get the sense and you start to think that my life is, it's so bad, or my life is so boring, or my life is so mundane. And so you start to judge yourself based on what you're looking at online. It's an easy trap to fall into. It's an easy situation to get involved in, or to mental place to go to. And I want to encourage you not to do that. I want to encourage you not to fall into that trap. You're only seeing the highlights of someone's life. Don't measure your life against the highlights of someone else's life. Okay, or some people, or the lives of other people. Don't measure yourself that way, because I assure you, their reality is quite different than that vacation you just saw. Their reality is quite different than that success story that you just saw. Their reality, like your reality, is fraught and filled with just regular, everyday challenges, bills to pay, right? Obligations to honor, troubles in your own family, challenges that you might be facing. They have the same thing. They have those same issues that you're facing. So don't you get into the situation of looking at their lives as if it is so much better than your life. Because I promise you, they have those challenges. They're facing bills. They're facing health issues. They're facing all manner of challenges. Some you don't even have to deal with. So don't fall, and that's on us, the recipient of these things. It's not on the people that are posting it. That's on us. And that's why I'm encouraging you. This is one of those hidden issues that come along, those psychological issues that come along with consuming social media. Okay. And by doing so, you will avoid a lot of social media psychosis. That's my own word. I'm not a psychologist, but that's you'll avoid that. Some people, and this is a very sad reality, have deemed their lives so unworthy after consuming social media that they literally end their lives. And that's not healthy, beloved. Obviously, it's not healthy. And I don't want you to fall into that situation and to fall victim to that because you have allowed the perception of their lives to impact your life. And again, I'm going to go back and say this one more time. The consumption of social media is on me. Okay. It's my responsibility to properly and responsibly consume social media. So I need you to lady up and man up, put your pants on, put your panties on, be a big girl, be a man, or be a lady, be a man, and own that. It's not anybody else's responsibility. You own that. Own it. Take responsibility of it. Okay. And if you have to remind yourself that you're looking at highlights of other people's lives, do that. If that's what it takes to help you ground yourself when consuming social media, you'll be better off for having done so than to beat yourself up, look down on yourself, think you're accomplished, think little, very little think less of your accomplishments because you're watching so many people do other things that you consider to be greater than what you've been doing. Okay. I want to help you avoid the what I call the psychosis of social media. Okay. So you only see the highlights of people's lives. And that's something that you need to be aware of. As you can imagine, with with the presidential election having taken place and the divide that has taken place in the electorate, that many people saw that differently, and as a result, the conversations began to be contentious and adversarial on social media. And so the back and forth begins to ensue, and then the arguments erupt, and then people begin to say things and write things and type things that are could be very vicious and mean and ornery, and there you go, you're back and forth, you're arguing. So here's one of the guidelines that I use in that respect. Stay away from online arguments. Okay. Stay away from online arguments. And you know, when these discussions degenerate into an argument, one of the things that I use, listen, I think online is a great place to engage in dialogue, to engage in exploring other opinions. I love it. I do it all the time. But you know when it degenerates into arguments. And here's where I draw the line when I'm engaging in online discussions with someone. When it goes from discussing the issue to personal attacks, name calling, vilifying the other person rather than the issue. Okay. And if you've ever heard the term or the word ad hominem, that's a word that's used when you attack the person rather than the issue. And so I use that as a signal to me that we've gone from discussing opinions and discussing issues to now an argument, and or at least you entered into the realm of argument. When you get into people calling names, people throwing accusations, at that point, agree to disagree and move on to the next issue. Because if you get into the back and forth, first of all, no one wins an online argument. No one does. Okay. No one wins that argument. Everyone gets to learn from a discussion. Okay. I want to say that again. No one wins an argument, but everyone gets to learn when we're having a discussion. You get to learn and hear opposing opinions. And let me stop for a second and say this, that one of the things that I want to see come back to public discourse, politically, socially, educationally, economically, financially, I want to see public debate come back to the public discourse in the halls of Congress, in the corridors of higher education, in the arenas of social justice. I want to see public debate come back to that arena. And here's why I believe that public debate versus public arguments are vital and healthy. Because when we're engaged in debate or in discussion about an issue, people that are on the line are uneducated about that issue get to hear the facts, they get to hear the issues, they get to understand what's what's being considered, right? And as a result of that, they get to hear that and they get to make up their minds as to which argument presents the greater, which argument is the most potent. They get to decide that. And based on that, they will begin to fashion their actions based on the information that they're getting. So stay away from public arguments, but by all means, engage in public discussion, because no one wins in an online argument. I'll share with you. I've engaged this, as you can imagine. I've engaged this on several occasions, and the minute that the person begins to leave the facts and leave the merits of the issue and get into personal attacks, you're stupid. Okay, that's a personal attack. You're dumb. That's a personal attack. You're crazy. That's a personal attack, right? And that's all opinionated. Dumb, stupid, crazy. That's their opinion. That's not fact, right? I take this step. Hold on. Let's stop for a second. Let's not get into personal attack. Let's just stay with the issue. You disagree with me. That's fine. I get it. You disagree with me. But let's just stay with the fact of the disagreement. That's fine. Because I can answer your disagreement. I can't answer your opinion about me because that's yours or about this issue. So let's stay with the facts and the discussions. And so it's I've used as a rule of thumb, when it gets into hurling personal attacks, accusations, those types of things, then I, try to reiterate, to stay away from that as a part of the discussion. And if we find that they can't, then it's time just to call it a day and suggest to them that it's, let's go do something else. A third thing that I want to encourage a lot of people, because this one is what really stirred me to address this topic here today. Avoid emotional outbursts as they are online forever. So I saw a couple of people as a result of this. I mean, literally and this is not an exaggeration. One young lady decided that she wanted to get online and post the fact that because she was so disappointed with the outcome of the election, she was going to get drunk. She was going to just get drunk because she couldn't deal with it. I'm just going to get drunk. Another young lady got her phone, got in a car, put her phone on TikTok, I think it was, and just began to scream into the phone and grab the steering wheel and shake violently back and forth, screaming at the top of her voice, that's online forever. She may move on. She may ultimately change her mind about the results of the election, but that's going to be online forever. Her visceral and emotional and energetic reaction that day now went viral. And all of a sudden now, that's a perception of you that's out there forever. Avoid emotional outbursts. I've often encouraged my children. Well, not my sons and daughters now. They are children, my children by birth, but they're grown adults now. I've often encouraged them to never make a decision at the height of emotion. I don't care if it's a decision about a very tragic thing or a decision about a very successful thing. Don't do it at the height of emotion. You are far less likely to make the right decision at the height of emotion than you are to make, you are more likely to make the wrong decision at the height of emotion than you are to make the right decision. Okay. So I always encourage people, calm down, allow it to cool off a little bit, think about it, then make that decision. It was clear to me that, and let me give you an example of what I saw that also. And again, very traumatic, but they took the time to put it online. And that's what, one of the things that I found to be very interesting was that they took time to start the camera, get to their login, turn the camera on, and then go into their diatribe of whatever it is that they wanted to talk about. Okay. But this was one that was very disheartening to me. So there was this family. The mother was the one that was projecting online, and you could hear the child and the husband in the background, or some male adult. I'm not going to suggest that it was a husband, and some child voice. Okay. The assumption being made, and the assumption could be wrong, that was her children and her husband. She was so distraught about the results of the election that she projected her disappointment onto two children. And you could clearly hear that the children were somewhere sub 10 years old. You could tell from the tone and the texture of their voice. They were somewhere sub 10 years old. Sounded more like about 5 or so. And she was in tears. And because the kids saw her in tears, they're looking at their mama. They're going to be distraught. And she's telling them and projecting on them all of her emotional hurt about the election. And the kids start to cry. You could hear it in the background. And at one time, she is saying something, and the husband decides to chime in, and you could hear his voice in agreement with her. And they're projecting all of this onto those children. Why do that? It's going to pass. Why do that? So and that's online forever. That's somewhere. It will be online forever. Just because you delete it from your social platform doesn't mean it got deleted from anywhere else. Just because you delete your social platform doesn't mean that someone didn't download that and record that and store that and then put it on their social media platform. Be very mindful to avoid emotional outbursts as they are online forever. Okay. Now, if you don't care, okay, by all means, go for it. But that may come back one day to be very difficult or may interfere with something that you want to do, because people have a perception of you based on something that happened in the heat of emotion. Okay. Number 4, almost a segue from the previous point. Potential employers review your activities online. Whatever you do online, employers, I used to be on that side of the table and review social media posts about a potential employee that we're looking at. Employers review your social media profile, your online profile, to see and to learn more about who you are. This very broadcast that I'm making right now becomes a part of my social media profile. A potential employer may look at this and decide one way or the other whether or not they want to engage with me in gainful employment. So you have to be mindful that things that you are posting are there forever, and employers potentially will look at this. So I use as a rule of thumb, if it's something that I don't want people to see me do in person, I try not to do it online. If I don't want them to see me do it live and in person, face to face, then I won't say it or do it online. That has served me extremely well, I have to admit. Because anytime that I'm challenged on something that someone saw online, I can, with a straight face, look them in the eye and defend what it is that that they saw and heard online. Because if I can't do it in person, then I stay away from it as a matter of it being online. And I want to encourage you to do that as well. Be mindful of what you're posting online. As we go on, listen, if those of you that are watching via Facebook, if you haven't gone to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the content there, I'm going to invite you to do that right now. I'm going to invite you to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. It helps us out. It helps us get our content to a broader audience, and it means a lot to us to be able to do that. We want to reach more people with what we're offering, because we're going to expand into a number of other things as a part of the Kingdom Voice broadcast. And I want you to come along with us on this journey. So thank you so very much. Sean, good to see you. Glad to have you here and have you a part of the broadcast as always. So again, potential employers review your activities online. Okay. I want to talk next about another topic that you'll see a lot of. Be mindful of false and misinformation. Okay. Some people call it fake news. Some people call it disinformation. Some people call it false, misinformation. It all bundles up into the same thing. Information that is not accurate. That's a big, broad issue. But you can be responsible when it comes to information, misinformation. As we all know, as we followed this past election, that term got hurled out at everyone at every turn, from the president's office to the vice president's office to big media to podcasters. Just everyone was conscious of fake news, misinformation, disinformation, false information. Everyone was conscious of that. Why? Here's what I've determined to be a very real situation with false information. Okay. With all of these platforms out there, sometimes people are saying what they believe to be true. So it doesn't make it a lie. And let me digress for just a minute and talk about this for just a second. Just because something isn't true doesn't make it a lie when someone says it. Because a lie comes when It is knowingly and willfully being given when you know it is false. That's a lie. I told you something that I knew was false when it came out of my mouth. I told you something that I knew was incorrect when it came out of my mouth. That is a lie. Period. Full stop. Okay. Misinformation, if you will, is what I told you I thought was true when I said it to you. All of the information I had indicated and led me to believe that it was true. Now, here's where it is my responsibility, and I'm just sharing with you how I go through the process of dealing with these issues. It is my responsibility to make sure that what I am saying to you is accurate. If I don't believe it is accurate, or if I'm not certain that it is accurate, then I choose not to say it. Or I give you the disclosure. I'm not certain. This is what I've been told, and I'm verifying this, or something of that nature, so that you don't lead off from having heard it from me as if it is true. So you have misinformation, disinformation, okay, fake news, and you have to be mindful of that, because a lot of people on both sides of this last election got caught up in things that were just simply not the fact. And they pervaded as if it were. And that's where fake, false, misinformation comes into play. You have to be mindful of that. You have to be aware of that. And it's not just political. It is social issues, educational, financial, political issues. All fall into and can get caught up into this idea of misinformation, false information, disinformation, all of the terms that we just talked about. Be mindful of that, because it led a lot of people to believe certain things that were just simply not the case. And so they built their entire expectation on that. And as a result, ultimately coming to the reality that that information was false. And now there's this idea of being misled that overshadows them. And so now you have this drama that ensues, this personal conflict that ensues within. Okay. Not going to be before you too much longer. Point number 6, online addiction. How many of us, we have these phones, and the online is as close as, waking up your phone and boom, you're online. And you get into looking at an article or looking at a post, and the next thing, how many of us I know I have, and I have to guard my own activities. I guard my own psychosis, for lack of a better word. Again, there's that word. I look at one post, and the next thing I know, I've scrolled through 15 posts. Be careful, be mindful. That attenuates toward addiction. So I want to encourage all of you that are listening right now, take a hiatus on a daily basis. On a daily basis, take a hiatus from this online participation. I'm talking social media. I'm not talking about business activities. I'm talking social media. Take a hiatus. I have to say, and I will say this, I used to be an avid consumer of Facebook. Okay. I mean, an avid consumer of Facebook, until I realized what Facebook was doing to us. Okay. And as a result of that, my engagement and my participation with Facebook has been relegated to me coming on to do this broadcast. And I'll give you an example of how my participation with Facebook dropped off significantly. I bet I went from 2 to 3 hours a day engaging on Facebook to maybe 2 to 3 hours a week engaging on Facebook. Probably more like an hour and a half to 2 a week of engaging on Facebook. I just found it very addictive. And I have a personality. I've never been addicted to anything, medicinally, chemically, socially. I've never been addicted to anything. So I don't have that addictive personality to start with. But let me digress for just a second and give you, let me digress a second and give you a little glimpse into my, I'll never forget, I could have been no more than about 2 or 3 years out of college at the time, which made me somewhere around 26, 27 years old. Just gotten married, and my family and I were living in Augusta, Georgia. And as a result, I had a cold one day, and at that time, Actifed and Sudafed were on the market. Okay, very powerful anti-congestion, decongestion, nasal congestion medication that you could take over the counter. They've since removed both of them, I think, Actifed and Sudafed, as medications. But I'll never forget that I was taking Actifed, and I knew just as good when the medicine kicked in because my body, my physiology responded to that. And I found myself looking for that sensation. And I knew then that over-the-counter addiction was trying to grab and hold me. That was the one and only time that I'd ever come that close to being addicted. Okay. I know many people fall into that category of chemical addiction, medications, that type of addiction, psychological addiction. That's where social media comes into it, and physical addictions, where they absolutely have to have certain physical interactions in order to satisfy that addiction. I'm talking about psychological, psychosis, social media type of addictions. Okay. So I just don't have that addictive personality or personage, if you will. But I do know and recognize it when I see it and when I start to sense it. And I know that when you grab that phone and you start to scroll, the next thing you know, 30 minutes has gone by. Okay. 30 minutes have gone by, and you just sat there and scroll and read and scroll and read and scroll and read. Next thing you know, 30 minutes are gone. For some of us, it could be an hour or two gone. Be mindful of online addiction. You go from TikTok to Facebook to YouTube to Instagram to X. Next thing you know, you spent 4 hours. Be mindful of that, because online addiction is real. The American Society of Psychiatry, I think, is they have a category now of psychological treatment, a psychological diagnosis, all centered around social media. Okay. So be mindful of that. All right. I want to say this as well. Again, if you have any comments, I certainly would love to see your comments. I see one Facebook user said, yes, sir, from the phone, period. Absolutely. That phone is another thing. This thing here is another thing. It absolutely. And if you're someone like myself who does business with their phone and, you know, and what have you, that phone is ever present. We're ever present. And it's amazing how that thing has become such a significant part of our social lives. Forget about professional and personal life, where you have to communicate with your family and things of that nature. But this is social lives. Okay. Okay, so online addiction, be mindful of online addictions. Number 7, engaging in inappropriate content. Yes, pornography. Yes. Violence. Absolutely. You have people. Okay, so one of the things that happens when you visually see something that stimulates you, your brain releases endorphins. Those endorphins gives you a sense of euphoria, of joy, of excitement, of peace. Okay, that's what they're intended to do. Okay, and when you find something that does that, you look at it more. When you look at it more, the algorithms give you more. So they feed the addiction, or they feed the pleasure that you are experiencing from the endorphins. And so they feed you more and more. So I recently did an experiment. I consume a certain type of political information. Okay. So I noticed that when I was visiting my sister and I pulled up YouTube on her television, that there was a whole different world of political information out there. So I did something. When I got back to my own personal device, I went and I found some of the information that I found on my sister's profile. And I liked it. I clicked on the like or thumbs up or what have you. And guess what happened? I began to get that type of information across my feed. So I realized that what they were doing to me wasn't giving me all the information out there. They were giving me the information I wanted to consume. Be careful, be mindful that what these algorithms do are they're not giving you what's available. They're giving you what you want to consume. And that leads you to believe that that's all that's out there. And if you're not careful, you'll formulate an opinion or formulate a belief around what you think is going on out there, when in reality, they're only feeding you what you want to see. These online platforms are there to give you what you want to consume. And that it rarely leads to a broad understanding of the issues. So it's your responsibility to go out and find that, actively look for opposing opinions, opposing understandings and ideas. And then you begin to get the whole story. Okay, online addictions. Number 7, in engaging in inappropriate content, rather. Okay, be careful, because that content I'll never forget. Again, being very transparent, I was pastoring in Georgia at the time. I was teaching on a subject, and those of you that are listening that were part of this may remember this: intimacy, marriage, and sex. That was the topic. I did a long series, probably 6 or 7 presentation series on intimacy, marriage, and sex. Right? So intimacy, just getting to know someone, marrying that person that you've gotten to know, and then finally engaging in sexual engagement with that person. And so now you go through those processes. When I got to the research of sex, it was like I opened up Pandora's box. I mean, the minute I mentioned, and this was back 20 plus years ago, so the internet was still, nowhere near as mature as it is now. And when I began to do some research on sex, I'm talking about advertisements, articles, everything began to just flood their way to me because I opened up that door with the word sex, and it just began to inundate me with all kinds of things. Most of it I didn't even want to see. Okay. I was trying to get some information to share facts and truths and understandings around the subject. And they wanted to give me all kinds of other stuff. And I had to actively engage in pushing that stuff away. So not try not to, stay away from what you consider to be inappropriate content. Stay away from that, because the more you do, the more they're going to give you. And the more they give you is going to lead to all kinds of other things. Okay. I was just talking to someone the other day, and there was this teacher that just lost his job behind having child pornography on their devices. Okay. Be mindful, be careful. Okay. Lastly, I want to say this as we get ready to bring it to a close today. And again, want to invite all of you to feel free to share your thoughts and comments. I'd love to dialogue with you around some of the experiences that you've had. So please share your thoughts. Okay. Oversharing personal information. One of the things that I've done with my grandson and my children, I said to them that don't ever share your address. Don't ever share any type of financial information, your bank account or anything of that nature. That's a given. But you also don't want to share, hey, we're going out of town on Thursday, blah, 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 blah. And no one's going to be at the house, and just blabbing your business out there online. Also successes, and people get jealous, and they begin to throw monkey wrenches into your plans. And I'm telling you, I'll never forget. I was pastoring in Georgia, and I had one of my dear friends pull me off to the side and say to me, they said, "Pastor, I just want to encourage you. There's some people in this church that are jealous of you. Be careful what you share from the pulpit about your personal life. Be careful." And so from that day, I took that to heart. Well, not necessarily from that day, but I've learned to take, and I refer back to her counsel that day all the time. And I've taken it to heart. And I want to encourage you online, stay away from sharing too much personal information. Success or failure, information or just data about you. Okay. Be mindful of that. And with all that we do online today, that is very challenging for many people. And and that is, but do your best to avoid oversharing personal information, because people will use that, and people do use that in sometimes not very nice ways. Okay. Well, listen, I see we got a comment. One thing that I noticed the past few elections is that how someone is voting is translated to a very broad and disturbing viewpoint on how one person's voting one way thinks and feels that about a person voting a different way. These dangerous narratives are being passed to children who do not have fully developed frontal lobes, who are not emotionally equipped to carry burdens that are probably less often real than are being presented as fact. People vote for so many different reasons. All I see is "and," so it got truncated. And you're absolutely right. People vote for different reasons. And that's the reason you voted the way you voted is your prerogative in a free and open society. And you have every right to do just that. I was in a conversation yesterday, very dear friend of mine. I've spoken about him on previous occasions. We see the world from two different perspectives. Okay. And we were in a conversation yesterday about the results of the election. And as a result, I told him, I said, I know you and I see it from two different direct perspectives, but I want to have a rational conversation with you about why you voted that way you did and why I voted the way I did. Okay. And as a result of that conversation, we were able to at least agree that this is why I did it. This is why they did it. And okay, I can understand that. And so before the conversation was over, as a matter of fact, it was his suggestion. He said, let's do this. Let's table this conversation and watch the next 4 years. Now, we're probably going to, not probably, we will have conversations between now and this presidential administration, or the next presidential administration. And let's have a conversation about the result of the election. I mean, of the administration. I said, I would absolutely agree to do that. My point to that is simply this. You can have a rational conversation without it degenerating into emotional tirades about things that you disagree with. And you're going to find that more often than not in the social media realm. Learn how to engage. So those are just 8 guidelines that I use for my engagement with social media. And I certainly, would encourage you to engage with those guidelines in your own personal social media engagements. And I think you'll find it very, very helpful as you do. Gary said this before we close. People will always want to be known by the same way. Hang on for a second, Gary. Person will always want to be known by the same way most are known from the Bible. It is a way of pride in their own life, hoping others will follow. Yes. Okay. We can only put forth a life, a behavior, a reputation that we hope others will find encouraging. Okay? Endeavor to do that. Endeavor to put the best you forward. The golden rule, let's just talk about that for just a second. You know the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Greater social words have never been spoken. Period. Full stop. If we will practice doing unto others as we would have them to do to us, then we will endear the kindness of others. Others will be so moved by our kindness that they'll reciprocate. Okay? So I want to encourage us to lean toward that behavior so that what you give to others, the kingdom will pour back into you. Kindness, generosity, consideration, largesse, all of those things, the kingdom will deliver back to you because you gave it. You sowed it into others. That which a man soweth, so shall he reap. Okay? And I want to encourage you to really consider, your online or your social media engagements. And I think you'll be much, much better off for taking a responsible approach to your engagements online than just to be irresponsible and emotional and you know, well, irresponsible and emotional. And you're going to find that you're going to have a much better social media experience. And I'll close with this. I've learned to leverage social media. I've learned to be responsible with social media. And I like to believe that I get the best experience that I can have out of social media. I get information, I get education. For example, I've started planting herbs and spices because I like to cook. So you know what I did? I went to social media. There are people that are out there posting that type of information. I consume that type of information, learn how to start my own little garden. It's what they call a raised bed garden and planter gardens. And so I'm growing tomatoes and I'm growing basil and I'm growing thyme and I'm growing rosemary because I like to cook with those herbs. Bay leaves, I like to cook with those herbs, right? Peppers and bell peppers. And so that's consuming social media in what I call a very responsible and educational and enlightening way. But we all know that there is a seething underbelly of social media, dark, unproductive, selfish, violent. And you can go in that too. I choose not to. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Amen. Well, God bless you, beloved. Thank you so very much. For those of you that would like to make a contribution to the ministry here at Kingdom Voice, please do so. It would mean a lot to hear from you. You can see on the screen right now, you can donate at either Cash App or PayPal. It would mean a lot to have you do so. And you can see our handle online, $LC Bellany, @ for PayPal, LC Bellany, and you can reach us that way in both ways. So again, thank you so very much. It really means a lot for you to do so. And I really, really, really do appreciate it. Again, thank you. Really appreciate it and love you so much. Be responsible, beloved. Until next time, be well, be blessed, and we'll see you again right here next Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time on Kingdom Voice. Be blessed.